If you enjoy this video, please consider giving a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. And if you have any ideas for future videos, share them in the comments section below. This original bedtime story is made possible thanks to Slumberland patrons. If you would like to support this channel, you can find Patreon details in the description and on my channel homepage. Ottilie and Nala's adventure has been created as a congratulations to Zoe, Sugg and Alfie Deyes on the birth of their daughter. So just take a moment to allow your eyes to close and allow yourself to begin to relax. And as you begin to comfortably drift asleep, I'm just going to tell this sleep story in the background. And it's a sleep story about Ottilie and Nala's first big adventure. And while you listen to me tell this story, I don't know whether you'll drift asleep faster to the sound of my words or whether it'll be to the spaces between my words that help you fall comfortably asleep. And one day, a few years earlier, Zoe and Alfie had been out of the house for a little while. And when they returned home, Nala noticed that there was a strange smell and this strange sound. And Nala was curious what that smell and that sound was. And so, as Nala could hear them coming into the house, she decided to investigate. She ran across the hard floor, toes tapping as she went, and headed through to the living room where Zoe and Alfie were standing. And Zoe was bobbing up and down ever so slightly and swaying slightly left and right. And Alfie was leaning over and touching something that Zoe was holding. And Nala was curious what it was. It seemed to be the source of the strange noise and smell. And as Nala got closer, she found that she couldn't quite see what Zoe was holding. But she managed to get Zoe's attention and was leaning up against Zoe. And she realized that Nala wanted to meet the new addition to the family. And so she sat down, and Nala climbed up. And in Zoe's arms, Nala could see this tiny little human. And the human had a strange smell, but a smell that Nala liked. A friendly, soft smell. And Nala sniffed the toes, which twitched as her nose tickled them, before carefully moving up to see the head. And instantly Nala could feel a deep connection and a deep sense of wanting to protect this child. And Nala rested her head down on this child's chest and could feel the child's heart beating underneath her head. And instantly a bond was formed. A few years later, Ottilie and Nala had enjoyed many times together, playing games, rolling balls along the floor. Nala enjoying watching Ottilie learn to walk, gently steadied by her mum or dad, and figuring out how one foot moves in front of the other, and how to then lift the other foot up, change the body weight, moving that body weight over to the other foot to be able to then lift and move that foot in front. And the way that Ottilie had learned to start to speak, start to say the occasional word, and then more words. And now, a few years later, Ottilie runs around, has intense curiosity, and almost seems fearless at times. And one day, Ottilie and Nala have become deeply best friends, constantly hugging each other and spending time with each other. They decide to go on an adventure, and they go exploring around the house. And most of the house they've seen before. They've played hide and seek. They've hidden behind sofas. They've hidden behind chairs. They've hidden behind sheets and curtains. They've hidden in and behind tents in the garden. They've hidden under cushions and blankets. They've hidden in cupboards and all sorts of places. And although young, Ottilie is already starting to wonder about the fairness of hide and seek, when she's already realised that Nala can just sniff her out, whereas she can't do the same in return. But she's already developing a high level of intelligence and is able to work out where Nala might hide. And her intelligence is often surprising to her parents. The amount she's able to do at such a young age. And so occasionally, she keeps some of that intelligence secret. She doesn't want her parents to think she's trying to take over the world or anything, as she has seen in a cartoon about some lab rats, which she really enjoys. And this day, Ottilie and Nala are exploring the house. And as they explore, they find a door that they've never been through before. Ottilie works out how to open that door, and with Nala's help, they get into this room. And this room seems to be almost like a secret room. The doorway was almost hidden in the way it was designed. And in this room, Ottilie grabs a chair, drags the chair over near the door, climbs on the chair to turn the light on. And as the light turns on, so does the computer in this room and other electronic items, as if the switch turns everything in this room on. And there are sounds of beeping and different electronic sounds in this room, and Ottilie is intrigued. And as she looks around the room, she sees a shelf of books, and she's already started to be able to read. And she looks at what those books say, and some of them are words which are still too complicated for her, but others she recognizes. She knows what her mum's name is. She knows what her dad's name is. And she recognizes some of these books seem to have their names on them. But she's curious because she sees some books with the name Pointless on the side, but it says that it's by her dad. And she's confused because she knows her dad is anything but pointless. That to her, he's the most important man in her life. He's so kind, he plays with her, bounces her on his knee, plays hide and seek, tells jokes that he thinks are funny. But she knows, even at her young age, that they're not really. That she could tell much better jokes than he can. He reads to her at bedtime with the lights on low and some twinkling and turning lights, making light gently move around the room. And he just sits there with a book, talks softly, and pays her all of his attention. And she knows that anyone who pays someone all of their attention and in that moment makes them the most important person in the world isn't a pointless person. And so she can't understand why these books say pointless on them, and she hopes one day she'll figure it out. And then she climbs up onto a chair, and Nala jumps up on the chair, and Nala climbs up onto a desk next to a computer. And she looks at that computer, and in a box near the computer, Ottilie sees many external hard drives, and she has watched her mum and dad plug so many of them into computers that she knows exactly what to do. And she knows that they get plugged in and something appears on the screen, and that you can use the buttons to make it so that you can click things on the screen, and it makes things play. She has watched her cartoons with her mum and her dad, where she's sitting on their laps, and they click the buttons over certain pictures, and those pictures become cartoons playing on the screen. She's even watched films like this. And so Ottilie takes one of those hard drives. She plugs it in to the computer. A folder appears on the screen, and she can see all these little square images. And she decides to click on some of those images. And she clicks onto the first image, and she can see her dad talking to himself as the camera bobs up and down ever so slightly. And he's got a smile on his face, and in the background are trees. And she can hear in the background the rustling of the leaves of those trees, and his footsteps. And he's talking about a bit of land that he's on, and that he's searching for treasure. And then she sees the camera being put down, and sees him walking away from the camera, and he has a long pole with a circle on the end, and he's swinging it side to side. And she watches him do this for a while, until eventually on the film, as he's swinging that stick side to side, she hears a beep from time to time, and then sees him excitedly grab a small spade, like she uses on sandy beaches to make her sandcastles, and sees him dig up a piece of metal. And he doesn't seem to be impressed with this metal, and he carries on searching. And after a little while of searching, he comes back to the camera, and the camera turns off, and the video ends. And she scrolls through the folder, just like she's seen Mummy do. And she clicks on another video, and she sees what looks like her Mummy, only much, much younger. She looks weird. She looks like Mummy, but isn't like Mummy. She's talking different. And she seems to be painting her face, a bit like she does now, but differently. And she watches as her Mummy is talking, while looking in a mirror, while the video is recording her. And she wonders what's going on, why Mummy has recorded herself, painting her face like she does in the morning, because she doesn't video herself when she paints her face in the morning now. Ottilie finds this intriguing, and then clicks onto another video, just scrolling randomly through. And as the video starts, it's initially out of focus, with circles of light and colour moving across the screen, and the popping and crackling sounds of a campfire in the background, and the sounds of rustling leaves of the trees, and the mumbling of voices. And then, as the camera falls into focus, she can see that it is her dad and some friends that she recognises, and her uncle, on the screen, sitting on logs around a fire. She can see the way the orangey fire is dancing, little bits of fire rising up, the popping, crackling sound, the way the light is bouncing and dancing off the people sitting on the logs, all laughing and relaxed and talking, and that rustling sound of the leaves of the trees around them. And she finds this so relaxing to watch, but wonders what they're doing and why they've made this video of it. And then she scrolls through the videos some more, clicks on another video, and as soon as the video starts, it sounds loud, a sound that she's very familiar with, the sound of water heavily rolling in up a stony beach, before rolling back, dragging stones back out to sea. And then the sound of someone stomping their way through the stones and sitting down on the stones. And she can see on the screen the stones and the water and a little bit of sky in the distance. And then the camera shakes and moves as it's picked up. and she sees her mummy on the camera, talking about how they've gone on a day out, a day trip to Brighton Beach. And as the camera moves around, Mummy is in the centre of the camera. And in the background, Ottilie recognises that it is Brighton Beach. It is the beach that she goes and plays on. That she's held Mummy's hand while walking into the water. And she's wanted carrying over the stones because they hurt her feet when she tries to walk down those stones. But she likes that feeling of standing just on the edge of the water, holding Mummy's hand with one hand, Daddy's hand with the other, and just standing there as the water gently rolls in, tickling her feet, as little stones roll and tickle over her toes, and she feels that water on her legs before it rolls back out again. And it makes her think about when she sits in a little rubber dinghy, and her daddy pulls her around in that dinghy, and pushes that dinghy around and has that dinghy go up and down over the waves. And she finds it exciting as it bobs up and down over the waves. And playing with her family on this beach. And she decides, because Nala is beginning to look a little restless and wanting to be curious about other things, to watch just one more video. And she clicks on one more random video and sees the most incredible thing. It looks like tree houses, but not like tree houses that she's seen on cartoons. It looks like big tree houses. And she can see her mummy and daddy talking to a camera, moving that camera round as they walk around the tree house, and they walk out of the tree house, and they look back at that tree house. And just then, Ottilie hears a sound. And at the door to the room, she sees Mummy appear, and Mummy says, "What are you doing here? Why are you in this room?" in a very friendly kind of way. Ottilie says why she's here, that her and Nala were on an adventure, and they found this secret room, and that she was watching the little videos, and asked, "Why does that book say Daddy is pointless?" And Daddy appears at the door as well, and puts his arm around Mummy. And before Zoe answers Ottilie, they look at each other and smile. And she then turns to Ottilie and says, "I'll tell you all about it when you're a little more grown up. But now is bedtime." And Zoe carries Ottilie out of the room, turning everything off behind her, Nala jumping down off the side, walking out of the door as Zoe closes it behind them. And then Zoe carries Ottilie to bed, settles Ottilie down in bed. Nala curls up with Ottilie, gives a little head nudge, before knowing that she needs to go to her own bed, so she walks to her own bed. And Zoe makes sure Ottilie is well tucked in. And sits next to Ottilie with Alfie just standing in the doorway, watching the two of them together, with warmth in his heart. As Zoe says, "Ottilie, it's time to settle down now. It's time to drift and sleep and dream pleasant dreams. You can go to a magical land in your mind." Ottilie doesn't necessarily understand every word, but she can feel every word and follows those relaxing feelings of what she hears. And Zoe says, just take a moment to close your eyes, and I'll tell you the most wonderful story. It's a story about a girl who's a curious girl, and she lives in a curious place. And she walks round her garden and picks the most beautiful flower and carries that flower into her house. And in her house, she walks through the rooms, and each room has singing furniture. The sofa sings songs of love. The coffee table sings songs of joy. And she walks through the rooms, and the furniture sings songs. The dining room chairs sing songs of adventure. The table sings songs of intrigue. And in each room the furniture sings. And in the corner the little pink dog sits playing a guitar, joining in with the songs of the furniture in the rooms. And the dog goes from room to room, playing a guitar to the songs of the furniture in that room. And while the dog's playing guitar and the furniture are singing songs, the panda stands in the kitchen cooking dinner for the whole family. Because the panda enjoys cooking, creating the most wonderful meals, mixing in magic with the food. And as Zoe tells this story, and Alfie listens in the background and watches, Ottilie falls asleep. And Zoe wraps up the story and wishes her daughter a good night, kisses her so gently on the forehead, before Alfie and Zoe head to bed themselves. They settle down in bed. They snuggle up together, and with a sense of peace, of calm, of deep relaxation and pleasure for the life that they lead, they snuggle up together and begin to drift comfortably and relaxed to sleep. Alfie says to Zoe, I think that our daughter's going to grow up to be incredibly curious and intelligent. I wonder what she'll achieve. And as they drift asleep, they begin to dream about their daughter's future and all that she'll achieve, and with pleasant thoughts in their mind, Alfie and Zoe drift peacefully and comfortably asleep.